When is enough enough? There's absolutely nothing wrong with a simple game, but the best ones add on to a basic framework, layer their gameplay with systems and mechanics that give you that strong skeleton, but then plenty of muscle too. If Ultra Kill was just about shooting a gun, it'd still be successful, but would it be body pillow successful? That's where you add on stuff like sliding, slams, shotgun boosting, coin shots, still can't do them. Heck, even something as simple as a combo system gives a game so much more to engage the player with. Like anything, however, excess can be a problem. If you're struggling to keep up with how much the game expects you to keep up with, that's an issue. When I started Alone in the Dark 2008, I had no reason to think it wouldn't be another 7th gen action game. I mean, this cover art could be the cover art to about 8 different games and you don't remember any of them. When I started getting into it though, I found a game so overambitious and buckling under its own weight that I couldn't look away. If you like So Bad It's Good stuff, you're in for a treat. Alone in the Dark is one of those important games. The type that changed the medium forever, brought in features we still see to this day, a revolutionary force. But I mean, I never played it. Released in 1992 by Infogrames, Alone in the Dark might seem ordinary to us nowadays, but what you're seeing was at one point unthinkable. Up to this point, survival horror as a genre was very underexplored, especially in the West. Japan had a few games like Sweet Home, funnily enough directed by Takeru Fujiwara, who would also direct Bionic Commando and produce Resident Evil, but outside of Japan, it'd be rare to get a game that didn't make it easy to fight back. Set in 1920s Louisiana, Alone in the Dark put you in the shoes of either private investigator Edward Carnby or grieving niece Emily Hartwood, to venture into Dercito Manor to solve the mystery of a sudden suicide. The game's structure and puzzles took heavily from adventure games of the time, often requiring item combinations and moon logic to solve, while the look took heavily from gothic horror movies. Static, unchanging camera angles in fully 3D environments, which framed things at unnatural and unsettling angles, gave the game the look of a playable movie. These two things helped to underscore the danger when a monster would finally show up. You can fight back, but only so much. Limited ammo and supplies meant that taking on any enemy was a gamble. Even winning meant that you would be down precious resources, and if you could avoid a fight, you should. Despite not being the very first survival horror game, you can see so much of how the genre evolved in this first attempt. Games for years to come would take inspiration from Alone in the Dark. Obviously, Resident Evil is one of them, but Dead Space, Alien Isolation, Silent Hill, Alone in the Dark's influence is visible in all of them. The series would continue with later entries like Alone in the Dark 2 and 3, as well as the reboot Alone in the Dark: The New Nightmare, and while they were all fine in their own right, even earning some major praise, Alone in the Dark never gets the recognition that it deserves. Now the most you'll hear people discuss Alone in the Dark is as a footnote at the beginning of a discussion about the history of Resident Evil. I mean, hell, look how much I cared. I found about 47 words to summarize 3 games. It wouldn't be until 2008 that we'd see a new Alone in the Dark game, this time published by Atari. Don't worry, it was actually still Infogrames. We're in the era where Atari is passed around to different publishers like a very handsome foster child. Developers for this one were Eden Games, a French developer like Infogrames who specialized in racing games like V-Rally and the later Gear Club series. This game did have a certain Smurf air about it. Prior to this, the only game they had ever made without a car as the main character was Kaya Dark Lineage for the PS2. How they got assigned to Alone in the Dark, I'm not sure. As for the game's development, I lucked out, since the game's special edition came with a making-of DVD that gives us a lot of insight into the development. Having a making-of DVD at all really shows how much confidence Atari had in the project. To be willing to catalog and then show all of the development, they wouldn't have done that if they didn't believe in this. It was clear while watching the DVD that the main goal that Eden Games had with Alone in the Dark 2008 was to try to make a game that innovated as much as the original Alone in the Dark did back in 1992. The game would have presentation inspired by TV of the time, like Lost and 24, mechanics that made it true to life, systems that made the world feel more real than any before it. It was supposed to be a game that went down in history. Oh, it did. Alone in the Dark 2008 released on the major consoles of the time, save for the PS3, and was received. Review scores like this are hard to get hyped over, and the public felt the same way, as the game quickly faded into obscurity. But what was wrong with the PlayStation 3? Well, since the devs were having trouble solving the riddle of the Sphinx that made PS3 development possible, that version came out later than the other ones, and was given extra time to improve what was wrong. This was Alone in the Dark Inferno, and is considered the game's definitive edition. So I'm playing the PC version. What, do you want me to give it a fair shot and play it at its best? My malice and hatred immediately backfired though, as this game is so 2008. It's so 2008 that trying to open the settings menu crashes the game. It's so 2008 that the YouTube tutorial fixing it has audible construction in the background.
You should get 2 files. Just copy those 2 files.
It's so 2008 that in a glitch I have never experienced capturing any other game, only the dialogue got muted despite not being that way when I played the game. All the other sounds work, just the dialogue. Not even all the dialogue, just most of it. The game's introduction is a masterclass in letting people know what they're in for, when, before you even get to move your character, your first bit of gameplay is blinking. By pressing the X key, you can blink your character's eyes while in first... I'm already sick of this. You can't keep your eyes open for more than 2 seconds before seeing Kaleidoscope, so you spend the cutscene hammering X to try and tell what's going on. You play as series main character Edward Carnby. Wait, what? So like I said, the original Alone in the Dark takes place in the 1920s, so this can't be Edward. It has to be a descendant or a guy with the same name as an homage, right? No, the game makes it clear that this is supposed to be the same guy.
What do you got?
Must have pulled the wrong file.
Let me see. Professor Edward Carnby, researcher, paranormal investigator, huh? Solved the case of Jeremy Hartwood's suicide at Tercito's Manor in 1924. Disappeared under strange circumstances in 1938. What the fuck?
Not only does he look nothing like what Edward Carnby is supposed to look like, he doesn't even look like the guy on the cover. This looks like cover art guy's dad. How did Edward stay alive for this long? It's weird. They explain it in a log entry that the magical rock he has keeps him from aging, but Edward doesn't really care about finding an explanation? It's not something given any attention after its initial reveal, and the explanation is given no weight. This character, being Edward Carnby from the original Alone in the Dark games, has no purpose. There's no reason why this character needs to be Edward. He doesn't act like him, nobody from his time period is still around, it's pointless. If we're going to stick with this, I would prefer the explanation be that he gave up his mustache in a Faustian bargain for eternal life. Edward and this old man named Paddington are being held by this ooky spooky cult of 3 people who want to use Paddington to open the path of light using the stone to become the Lightbringer. Don't laugh. I did enough laughing for all of us. Once they get tired of speaking in proper nouns, one of the thugs drags us up to the top of the building so he can shoot us on the roof. At the last second, evil cracks start to appear and eat all the bad guys, which allows us to escape and get used to the controls. The game has adopted a Resident Evil 4 style control scheme and Resident Evil 4 style cool jacket. I'm not the first person to make this comparison, and I certainly won't be the last, but there is something embarrassing about how much this game takes from Resident Evil after how much Resident Evil took from the original Alone in the Dark. The tank controls handle about how you'd expect them to, except instead of left and right shifting your character to face a different direction, here it'll move you as you turn, making for this unnatural feel to the controls that's hard to wrap your head around. If you don't feel like dealing with it, you can always switch to first person, which offers a much smoother experience when it comes to aiming and searching for objects in the environment. Over-relying on the first person, though, comes with some major drawbacks. First is that if you do stuff like climb down a ladder or swing on a rope, the game switches back and forth from the third and first person perspectives constantly. This is an extremely jarring and disorienting way to handle a camera system. And to show how bad an idea it is, the only other game I can think of off the top of my head that does this is Rogue Warrior. This is even worse when the game swaps between an over-the-shoulder style camera, like Resident Evil 4, a more zoomed out one, and a fixed camera like the original Alone in the Dark at random. Another problem you get by sticking to first person is that you lock yourself out of most of the game's combat since you can't use melee weapons. Picking up a melee weapon changes the controls for a third time to give you the best of both worlds. The precision of first-person mode, with better tank controls from the third-person mode. Except the problem with this mode is that melee combat in this game stinks. If you think I'm going from mechanic to mechanic too quickly, trust me, I'm going at a snail's pace compared to the game itself. So instead of pressing a button to swing your weapon, you have to use the right stick, or mouse in my case, to swing your weapon, Skyward Sword on the Switch style. While this does make for one or two inventive puzzles, like the one where you need to chop off a security guard's arm to use for a handprint lock, it mostly just makes for a really annoying experience as you're given massive dead zones where holding the mouse at certain angles will lock you into place and leave you standing there to get punched in the face. You can use stockier weapons to break down doors, but finding the sweet spot where the game will actually let you use it as a battering ram is so finicky, I usually just used a bomb instead to blow the door off its hinges. As you make your way out of the burning building, you're also going to get a chance to observe the fire system. Fire naturally spreads between various objects made of wood, and can be used to your advantage for things like lighting doors on fire, making burning weapons, and lighting up dark areas you can't see in without it. I am not going to say many nice things about Alone in the Dark 2008, but I will say this. This is some of the best fire in any game of the era. This game predates other games with incredible fire systems like Far Cry 2 and 3, and with how it's integrated into the game, it works perfectly. The fire in Alone in the Dark 2008 is its lasting legacy. To this day, even people who never played it recall the game's pre-release hype largely being based around how good the fire looked. Given how often it's used for puzzles and combat, the game had to make it work, and it does. Naturally, the game's lighting also looks really good to accompany that fire, and is used in a fair few puzzles. In these regards, the game is working really well. All that goodwill will go away when the game soft locks itself and makes me replay the last 20 minutes, but the fire is really nice looking. I'll give it one pass. One of the people we were trying to escape with ends up getting eaten by one of the fissures and gets spat back out as a zombie, with this strange voice talking through them.
Who are you? What have you done to her?
She's one of my hosts now, as you once were. You, my most perfect puppet.
Oh, damn, sorry guys, I didn't think it would be that short. Okay, what is this? Well, remember how I said the original Alone in the Dark took inspiration from horror movies, and how this one would take inspiration from TV shows? To do that, they gave the game the presentation of a TV show's DVD release, including end-of-episode stingers, credits, episode recaps, and a scene select. I kinda get the choice behind it. It's an idea that can work in games like Asura's Wrath and Alan Wake, which had TV show-like presentations, so why couldn't it work here? In fact, it's gonna be really hard to criticize it when I love how Asura's Wrath does it, lest my anime fans start showing. I was trying to pinpoint what exactly made me feel lukewarm about the whole presentation when I realized that it didn't really feel like it worked with this game. You look at a proper episodic game like Walking Dead, each episode feels like a complete experience. You have a beginning, middle, and end, self-contained plot that would lead into the next one, which all served an overarching story, kinda like watching a TV show. Alone in the Dark's episodes are just levels in a regular game dolled up to kinda look like they're episodes in a TV show. But they aren't structured like TV episodes. The levels do not have the structure to justify a format like this. If it was like how it was in Walking Dead or Asura's Wrath, where any individual episode could stand on its own largely, then it would work. But Alone in the Dark doesn't structure its levels like that. It plays into a problem I'll touch on later, where the game's ideas often seem complex, but only go skin deep. After we take our bathroom break and come back, the game finally sinks its hooks in. And I get to reveal why I love this game. This is the funniest game I've ever played.
You forgot, but not to worry. I still have the keys to your mind. Now give me my stone!
I don't have your stone, and f*** you anyway.
It is not intentional. The game takes itself deadly seriously. You can tell by all the mean words they use. No matter how hard it tries, though, the game can't help but be completely ridiculous. You wanna know what I mean? The next scene after the stone bit has you fighting your first enemy, and the weapons you get include a soup ladle, a frying pan, and a goddamn samurai sword. What the fuck is happening? The fight ends when I conquer in the head with a flaming wooden chair, because enemies can only fully be killed with fire, like from a burning melee weapon or fire bullets. A system that makes you feel over and underpowered at the same time. If you have a flaming chair, fire bullets, or, God help the zombies, a flamethrower, they are grass to a lawnmower. They drop like flies. If you don't have easy access to fire, then everything in your arsenal is worthless. The gun doesn't even stop the enemies as they just run through the bullets after you. And hitting them will just knock them out temporarily as you try to light a chair on fire without getting it knocked out of your hands. Combat in this game is very one-note despite its variety of options, because with fire being the only way to permanently kill enemies, it makes it so every combat option converges back on the same outcome, lighting stuff on fire. Enemies who take specialized tactics to take down can be fun. Regenerators in Resident Evil 4 prove that. But here, it's every enemy. And it's not like it varies between them. No, all of them are weak to fire. From the biggest ones to the grunts. There's no difference. We escape to an elevator shaft and find our partner for the game, Sarah, who is just as unlikable as our buddy Edward.
I'm Sarah Flores. I'm an art dealer. I was here to meet a client for... You're not a cop, are you?
Your guess is as good as mine. I don't actually remember anything prior to waking up this evening. Not my name, my address, nothing.
Great! My rescue is more f***ed up than I am.
Fun fact, in the Wii version, she has a different occupation than she does in every other version of the game. This is where the interest begins and ends with her. After saving her and getting to the parking garage, we meet back up with our old buddy Paddington.
He'll come back for the stone. My God, I never thought I'd see your face again.
Take it easy. You're hurt. You know him?
No, I don't think so. But then again,
He doesn't recognize me. I'm Theophile Paddington.
You're a whataphile? It is worth bringing up that they do try to do something with the fact that the main character is Edward Carnby by making Paddington, the old man, Edward's student from the 1920s. You learn that when you find this funny fucking photo. Look at me and my stupid son I hate. I throw bottles at him. He hasn't dodged them yet, but he'll learn. This is what I'm talking about. You smash the window to get into the locked car. I can only break the back window. So we all get in with nobody in the driver's seat as we watch the zombies close in. I just let it happen. I was dying. So this game has driving in it. How it handles, despite being made by a racing game developer, makes me believe it was programmed sarcastically. Driving in this game is really bad. Cars handle awful and feel weightless. They bounce all around the road whenever hit and swing out the back so violently. This really doesn't feel like it was developed by a team who only made racing games before this, save for that one PS2 game. It feels like it was made by people who've never even seen a car. It's not the worst here. I was able to clear this big chase scene on my first try, but later on it's gonna get really annoying. We crash into Central Park, where Paddington tells us he doesn't have time to explain why he doesn't have time to explain, tells us to meet him in his special room, and then blows his goddamn head off! What the f***?
What the fuck?
That's what I'm saying! Paddington opening his third eye in the back of his head distracted Edward from the fact that he's currently bleeding out, and will die in 7 minutes unless we can bandage up this wound. So we're off to go find a bathroom to stuff toilet paper into it until we don't die. This is as good a chance as any to talk about how health works in this game. See, you don't have a normal health system or a status health system like in Resident Evil, or even regenerating health. Instead, your health is represented by your jacket. As you take damage, you'll get bits of exposed flesh on your clothes that represent how injured you are, and you can heal these off with a healing spray that will patch up your wounds. Grievous injuries, usually caused by explosions, will require bandages though, and leave trails of blood that will cause enemies to mob you if they catch wind. Now, like everything else in this godforsaken game, it makes sense, it's cool, but it doesn't work at all. How many patches of exposed skin you have on your jacket is not an accurate way to tell how much damage you can take. It just doesn't help at all. When you do take enough damage, eventually the screen will go black and white, and that's the only real indication that you're near death. But after a little bit, your health will start to come back. So you do have regenerating health, but it's only about the last 10% of your life bar. The ratio of healing items is completely backwards as well, with the ones for rarer injuries being much more common, and the ones needed to heal common injuries being much rarer. You'll have around 10 bandages at a time when I was only ever grievously injured twice, including the tutorial. Meanwhile, by the end of the game, I was going hours without a proper heal. So now we need to find the bandages in the bathroom to stop Edward from dying. All we have to do is go to the bathroom, get the bandages, and come back. Because he is a dumb ass though, Edward gets attacked by a swarm of bats, gets sent plummeting down into a crevasse, and has to climb through the sewers to get back to where he used to be. By God! By God! It's Carnby with a ball bat! Further down into the sewers, you do some puzzles that I was actually able to do out of order thanks to the physics engine being wonky. You're supposed to find a different way around and use a plank to hook this wire around a pipe to make it safe to walk through the water, but I just shot at it until it got stuck on the fence. The physics in this game are generally completely f***ed, causing you to ragdoll all around the place and fly like you're on the moon. But this only makes the game funnier. If you thought realistic physics were hard to get right after playing Half-Life 2, you're right. After that is the worst thing in the game. This stupid black goo that kills you instantly if you touch it, but will bend around light. It shows up around 3 times in the game, and each one took dozens of retries because it interacts with light very poorly. It will kill you no matter if you're standing in it or not. If the game thinks you're standing in it, that's grounds for a swift death. I eventually got past it by just tossing flaming chairs across it to try to hedge my bets before gunning for the ladder. After escaping the sewers, we managed to find an ambulance and now have to make it to the museum like Paddington asked.
Look, we gotta go. You two coming?
She is. I'm going to the museum.
The hell I am. You think I'll be safe here?
Don't f around or I'll shoot you myself.
Oh, you're a real sweetheart.
We try to drive over, except on our way there, our car is besieged by bats, and force us to constantly hop like we typed chitty chitty bang bang. Then the bats hijack the car, crash it into a fountain, and now we have to square off with a bat-nado. I can't hate this game. It's just launching flaming bottles at the core and blowing them up in slow motion, so not much to report, but once again, the physics save the day. Just as we're about to make it to where Paddington wanted us to be, the bats steal Sarah and carry her to the museum to trap her in a big cocoon. Why are the monsters now taking prisoners after they just killed anybody they came into contact with before? Oh, it's because she's an art collector. The game soft-locked again during this section where a fissure completely destroys a bathroom. Just wanted to keep you guys up to date on what's happening in my life. We free Sarah from the flesh sack she's stuck in, and now have to get to puzzling to make it to Paddington's room. This is another perfect time to mention crafting and the inventory. A huge staple of survival horror is that you don't have a bottomless bag. You usually only have so much space to work with, and it can fill up quickly. Alone in the Dark fulfills one of my deepest desires, and lets me be the attaché case, since your inventory is your jacket. A few pockets on the left and right to store items in, like flammable bottles, healing spray, bullets, tapes, and bandages. You can combine items together to make special combinations, like a rag and a booze bottle for a Molotov, or lighter fluid and bullets to make fire bullets. This system sounds really cool on paper. It's realistic, it's immersive, and it's really poorly executed. This doesn't count as pausing the game. Naturally, as Edward isn't packing enough to stun the enemies by flashing them. But it makes things really annoying when you need to craft on the fly. If you want to make fire bullets, you have to recraft them per clip. So a reload requires both reloading the gun, opening the inventory, scrambling to combine booze and your bullets, all while hoping the enemies get distracted. Combining items can also sometimes be a real hassle, requiring so many item slots and so much time to make something like a sticky Molotov, requiring a bottle, a rag, tape, and a lighter, all equipped and combined back to back. And when you do light the Molotov, you better know it starts counting down on light and not on throw. Otherwise, boom, you blow yourself up. Your inventory space is also incredibly cramped. Only 4 slots for bottle-shaped items, and 6 for everything else. 5 once you factor in how you always have to have bullets on you, 4 once you get an unremovable key item. That's not a lot of space, and it gets much tighter in certain parts where you need a lot of flammable stuff on your hands, leaving you maybe 1 spot for healing spray? There's no safe box in the game to store spare items, so you're just bumming it with whatever you have. If you run out of items in an area with sparse resources, like the next room against a horde of demons, it doesn't matter how many times that blade was folded, it ain't doing crap. Getting past that room brings you to the second, and well, I mean, since there isn't another one after this, I guess this is the final boss. This big spider whatever. There is actually a third boss fight exclusive to the PlayStation 3 version of the game, but we were all naughty this year and get coal for Christmas. It's another one where you just have to throw bottles and blow them up in his face, except now you also have to hide behind pillars to avoid a big wave attack. And you lose a pillar each time you land a hit. Nothing remarkable, it works, it's not frustrating. This is the bar we're working with, it's buried under the floor at this point. Making it to Paddington's room, and we get the first sign of this being a horror game since the game started. This game is supposed to be scary. The lights are destroyed, you run out of battery for your flashlight, and there's no way to tell where you are in a cramped little room. The key to the puzzle here is that you have to go into first person and shut your eyes. And by doing that, Paddington's ghost can guide you around the room and show you instructions on what to do next. If you're going to make blinking a part of the game, this is a good use of it. Once we get conked on the head for a change, Paddington finally explains some stuff to us from the afterlife. The main bad guy's name is Crowley. He wants to get us so he can steal our half of the Philosopher's Stone and use it to reform the soul of Lucifer, bring him back to the world of the living, and unleash hell. The only reason we're ever given as to why Crowley wants to bring Lucifer back to life is that he says he feels as though he was meant to do it for his entire life. Dude, some of us want to be ninjas when we grow up. We grow out of it! Get a hobby! You can text him whenever you want in the game. Did I mention you have a phone? We have to keep the stones safe from him, and to do that, we need to open the lock on the door to hell and bring Lucifer back. This plan makes no sense. I'm really trying to give him credit here, but the plan to stop Lucifer is to resurrect Lucifer first. I mean, the credit we'll get for resurrecting Satan will probably be worth it. Edward sets out to get the other half of the stone, and now we're using a forklift. Have I mentioned all the systems I've been skipping? So in this section, you use a forklift to raise bridges and carry around boxes. This is not fun. The physics are f***ed, and it only goes on for 20 minutes. This is used once before never being used again. You get Paddington's phone, which acts as a way to get text prompts off of your screen, and you have to call 911 on it. This is used once before never being used again. When you rescue Sarah from the flesh cocoon the bats trap her in, you have to perform CPR on her. This is used once before never being used again. There's a stretch of about 3 rooms in the sewer section where you need to manipulate electricity by dragging cables out of the water to make it safe to pass, or by using electricity to kill a bunch of bats on a metal wall. Despite there being a section later in the game that has ankle-deep water and no reason for it not to be there, this is used once before never being used again. When you first find a car, you have to smash the windows to get into it since the doors are locked. This is used once before never being used again. You can collect knives and screwdrivers to puncture the fuel tanks of cars, to leave trails of gas to ignite, or refill empty bottles and replenish your flammable liquid supply. This is not used once in the game, as I never found a single knife or screwdriver and it was never required. The game is overflowing with one-and-done mechanics given way too much detail that are not engaging enough to warrant a unique set of controls or to even be in the game, period. This game is obsessed with realism to its detriment. It can't just have something happen fast. It has to drag out everything in order to have the sheen of immersion and realism. Do you really need a whole screen dedicated to pressing the button on an elevator that only goes one way? Even immersive sims aren't that anal about representing real life. It has all the presentation of an immersive sim, giving you the ability to do mundane real-world things and interact with seemingly uninteractable objects, but they can't be used in unintended ways. You're going to do whatever the game wants you to do, explicitly how it sets you out to do it. Whether that be by breaking a door down or burning it, it doesn't matter. You still did what the game wants to the letter. In a real immersive sim, you'd be able to lockpick the door, find another entrance, trick somebody else into opening it. Here, you get 3 different flavors of the same outcome. It wants to look immersive with stuff like blinking, but it fails at what makes immersive games so great, and that's a variety of options. The game's mechanics have the veneer of depth, but either they're so sparsely used that it feels like a waste to have even included them, or they're so surface level that it comes off as window dressing, teasing you that the game is much more in-depth than it really is. That's what I'm talking about with the presentation of a TV show or its immersive sim aspirations. It just looks that way without anything to justify it. The game introduces so many mechanics, it eventually has to start making up reasons to justify them even being in the game. Blinking may seem like a pointless feature to include through the whole game, so how about we add an enemy that will spit in your face and obscure your vision, meaning you need to blink away the poison. Oh, we added a phone with a section for journal entries but couldn't find a way to naturally add journal entries to the game's surroundings? Sarah will just text you Paddington's journal entries out of order, at random, after she leaves the story for the last few chapters. You don't have a reason to have to hotwire every single car you get into? Fuck you, yes you do, because sometimes you don't have to hotwire them. The cars are filled with stuff to do, like sit in the back, honk the horn, turn on and off the lights, turn on the radio. None of this is important or ever comes up. It's so complex that I didn't even know you could check the rearview mirror for keys to skip the hot wiring. All of this inner complexity and the car's control this bad? Alone in the Dark is choking on ambition. You want to know what it feels like? It feels like if you or me tried to make a video game. You know us. We're stupid. We don't know a design dock from a boat dock. If somebody asked us to make a game, we'd have no idea when to stop. We'd keep adding on more and more stuff because we don't know any better, crushing ourselves under the weight because we'd never have to execute on it. The game took every single idea they had and refused to say no to one of them. You could split this game down the middle and make 2 full games based on half the mechanics. If the game just focused on things like the item crafting, the fire and light physics, and cut out what didn't work, you'd have a much more focused game that didn't feel like everything in it was added on a whim. I don't know if this was a problem of the producers and directors never saying no, or never stopping with new ideas, shoved in no matter how half-baked they were. It reminds me of Duke Nukem Forever, how the game just kept adding in new mechanics and features as George Broussard played newer games, and wanted to add those features to his game. Again, I don't know if this was the case for this game, but I'll tell you, if it was, it comes across in every minute of the game. All of this was because of the damn forklift. You get out, get into a helicopter crash, and then the game crashes. No, not like it stops working, I mean the game crashes into a brick wall and loses all momentum. You get a message from Sarah when you reach the Central Park Castle that you aren't strong enough to see the visions dotted around it. So you have to upgrade your spectral vision by burning evil roots around Central Park. This game adds open world and RPG elements in the same breath in Chapter 7 of 8. It don't matter how funny it is, this shit sucks big time. So to upgrade your spectral vision... God, like we don't all know how to upgrade our spectral vision. We're adults, but... in case you don't, you have to run around Central Park and find evil roots. By burning these evil roots, you absorb their power and will be able to see more stuff. I haven't really mentioned that this is an open world game, have I? It's 'cause it's not... Okay, so it is open, and this is a world, so we're passing the action-adventure test for naming a genre. So there are these sections between chapters where Central Park is open to you so you can explore. I did this never, because there is nothing to find in the open world. You could go supply hunting by digging through trash and discarded car glove boxes, but that is never going to happen since the game is not low on resources. Now, around 15 routes have been scattered around Central Park that you need to drive to and burn so you can level up and see hidden symbols. The game made an open world and then had to find a way to justify having an open world, so dedicated a third of its runtime to that open world. This kills all of the game's momentum, as this section will average around a few hours of your time playing, driving from area to area, doing mini Zelda dungeons in order to destroy roots. This is some egregious padding to make the game seem longer than it really is. Nothing interesting happens when you go to get the roots. The trips to and fro are not enjoyable or engaging. It really feels like a colossal waste of time. They did at least try to find some ways to make it a little interesting. If this were just driving to different spots on the map and burning roots, I'd be furious. But they did take the time to design little challenges. One has you timing a sticky bomb toss to ram a big column into a root to burn it. Another has you crawling through an asylum as the root obscures your vision and makes your approach kind of tense. They had some good ideas for puzzles to get to the roots, but they definitely didn't need to be stretched out across an entire open world with nothing in it. But as a little distraction, it could be worse. Once you get to a spectral vision rating of 30, you go back to the castle and discover a second, much cooler castle out of the way. And that's surrounded by a shield that requires a spectral vision level of... Alright, so I was trying to give the game credit, but then it wheeled back and kicked me in the teeth. Now you need to collect 15 more spectral whatevers than you did in the first round. 45 points in addition to the 30 from the first go-around. And this time, oh, this time they had no ideas. the number of dungeons falls to 0, as now instead, they're just dotted along Central Park willy-nilly, separated by a giant ocean of nothing. You are just flying around the map, either tossing bottles, spraying fire, or dumping gas on the roots to burn them. Now is when your resources are really going to tighten. Without gas or a sprayer, you have no way to kill a root, so you're gonna be sacrificing important resources like health spray just to take them out. By the end, you have diddly dick to work with and are uselessly shooting monsters who always respawn, mind you, and trying to run past. Hitting them with your car doesn't take them out for any longer than hitting them with a soup ladle. And some monsters are actually tougher than your car, leaving you helpless. Burning more roots does give you some dog shit power-ups, like highlighting enemy weak spots when blinking, and then you can do it for longer. These updates are texted to you by no one. A random number is just cold texting people in Central Park with Edward's current stats spread. I was stunned when the second round of root hunting started. I've never seen a game so blatantly add on so much fluff at the tail end. You have to burn 15 roots, and then 15 more roots. All of this to gain the power to huck a Molotov over a 10-foot wall. I needed to tap into Satan's power for this? After this is a couple of puzzles and an admittedly cool-looking catacomb until we find Hermes, the other holder of the Philosopher's Stone. Realistically, we should just kill him here and toss the stone in a storm drain, but how much worse can NYC get? Let's resurrect Mr. Morningstar. We have to race against the clock to make it back in time before the thing happens that isn't good, except the thing that happens that isn't good happening actively gives us more time to stop it by adding time to the clock, so maybe it doesn't even do anything. On our way back, Crowley takes our girlfriend hostage, blah blah blah, who cares? I'll tell ya, of all the fields this game tries to perfect, old man getting shot in head graphics is by far its strongest suit. We put the stone pieces together to resurrect Lucifer so we can do a soul battle with him, when Sarah steals it and tells Edward we don't have to fight alone anymore. And we get the final choice of the game. It's also the first choice too, but hey, no better time to start than the end.
Choose quickly, carrier. Kill her or let her live. You alone can decide, and you will decide for all.
Fine. Don't you love it when games give you a single choice at the end that's the only one that determines if you get a good or bad ending? With all the roots around the park, that'd be the perfect time to introduce an Infamous-style easy mode bad ending, hard mode good ending. But no, now it's just shoot girl or don't shoot girl, which the obvious answer is shoot girl, which gets you the bad ending.
You're not a man anymore.
I'm the light bringer. I'm the fucking universe.
What a complete disaster. If there's one thing you can't accuse Alone in the Dark of being, it's unambitious. This game is entirely too ambitious for its own good. You could call this game any genre short of a rhythm game, and I'd have a hard time saying you're wrong. From action to adventure, simulator to horror, Alone in the Dark staples so many ideas from different genres to itself, eventually its skin peels off. It just keeps adding them on without ever asking if what they just added works or is fun. And by the time it could, that matter just got put on the back burner by even more mechanics. The game reeks of a lack of a single guiding hand or vision. No one to ever say enough was enough. When the game should stop, it adds 5 more things to worry about. Is it always bad? No, but that's mostly down to the law of averages. They were bound to have a good one every once in a while. There's even the very real, schlocky charm the whole game has because it's trying so hard. Trying to be cool, trying to innovate, trying to revolutionize while not realizing its fly is down. Should you try it? I mean, up until they introduce the roots. At that point, the game is no better than watching a YouTube video of the endings. It goes on sale pretty frequently on Steam, and only took about 3 hours to get to the Roots part, so I'd say it's perfectly worth checking out to see what happens when ambition outpaces ability.